Hello, all. Today we're going to have a little grammar lesson. And in this grammar lesson, we are going to talk about quotation marks. And I was specifically inspired by one of the DLRs we did yesterday where it was asked. And I was thinking about, man, we haven't talked about that yet this year. And it's one of our standards. Maybe not the most important thing you'll ever learn in your life, but it is a helpful, useful thing. And it's good to know proper grammar rules to help your writing. So today we're going to look at quotation and comma usage. And the I can statement is, I can use quotation marks and commas to mark direct speech. Basically, what we're saying here is, let me get a good color here. I can use quotation marks and commas to mark direct speech. You're going to be able to tell me as a reader, and you as a writer are going to tell me as a reader, who is saying what. And you're going to mark it up with the proper punctuation. So the first thing I have, the first slide here says, what is a quotation mark? And it says used in pair in various writings to indicate a direct speech, a quote, or a phrase. Okay? And I've got the example here. Do or do not. There is no try. Yoda. Quotations around that because Yoda actually says that in The Empire Strikes Back. Do or do not. There is no try. If I'm quoting a TV show, if I'm quoting a movie, if I'm quoting a book, if I'm quoting a character, somebody that actually said something, if I'm quoting, Mr. Myers or Mrs. Mast, and writing it down, I put quotation marks, their sentence, their full sentence, quotation marks, and in the proper punctuation. We also use quotation marks with direct quotes with titles of certain works. And that's not that important, but I want to throw it in there because it's interesting to see. And to apply alternate meanings and to write words as words. Leave Home is the Ramones' second album. That's a title of a work. If I was talking about Home Alone, the movie, I would have quotation marks around Home Alone. That Leave Home really is the Ramones' second album. That's a certain work. Okay? Or the title of a book, although it might be italics. I forget the rules for that. Now, to imply alternate meanings, that goes with the notion of using air quotes around, like, to be sarcastic. If I was using air quotes or around something, be like, oh, that fresh bread was really crumbly, or really dry. Bread's not supposed to be dry, so it's like fresh. It's like me being a smart aleck. When are they used? When are quotation marks and commas used? Well, we're going to examine those rules here on these next few slides. And this one says when to use quotation marks. Quotation marks are for when you want to use someone else's words in your writing. Lucy said, I don't like black olives. And that is a direct quote. It's got the quotation marks on both ends. And you'll notice the comma right after the word said. So Lucy said, comma, I don't like black olives. Lucy, and my daughter actually said this quote just the other day. I forget what restaurant we were at. She had a taco salad and it had olives on it. And we're like, eat the olives. Because I think olives are disgusting. But she ate the olives and she's like, I don't like black olives. And that's a direct quote. She said that. That is something she said. Okay? To write that sentence and not use quotations, it would have to be a variation. It'd be Lucy said she did not like black olives. It's an indirect quote or a paraphrase. Remember the word paraphrase means your own words, version of what Lucy said. So if I was putting it in my own words, I'd be like, yeah, Lucy said she didn't like black olives. Instead of using it as a direct quote, Lucy said, I don't like black olives. I don't have to use quotation marks if I phrase it as Lucy said she did not like black olives. Quotation marks are only used with direct quotes. That's what you need to remember, guys. They're only around what somebody said. It doesn't go around a whole thing where Lucy said, you don't put quotation marks there and at the end. No, no, no. It's only around what the person said, their direct quote. And here we go. Little practice. Where should we put the quotation marks? Tim asked, "Did you do the math test?" Well, where do quotation marks go here? Tim asked, "Did you do the math test?" Well, what did Tim ask? Tim asked, "Did you do the math test?" Quotation marks right there. That is the quote. That is the direct quote. He asked, "Did you do the math test?" Quotation mark rules. There's grammar rules. You know this. We've worked with grammar. You've worked with grammar in every grade. There are rules for quotation marks. The first rule is if you use one, you must use another. So if you are writing and you put quotation marks around a sentence, you have to have a pair. You don't just have one on the left side of your quote and nothing on the right side. And an easy way to think about it, if they're opened, they have to be closed. If you are quoting a complete sentence, you should start the quote with a capital letter. This applies even if the quote was coming in the middle of a sentence. For example, this is my example, guys. Adam said, comma, quotation mark, "There is no way we will get to the store before it closes." So even though it's the third word in that sentence, it is still capitalized because it's the start of a complete quote, a complete sentence. However, if you're quoting a phrase or a part of a sentence, you don't start it with a capital letter. So if you're just picking and choosing from what he said, he called them loud, smelly, and utterly annoying, and he closed the door. That's just part of a quote. That's not the complete sentence. Okay? So capitalized up here, Adam said, comma, quotation mark, there, capital, "There is no way we will get to the store before it closes," period, quotation mark. If you're quoting a phrase or part of a sentence, you don't start it with a capital letter. And this example said, he called them loud, smelly, and utterly annoying, and he closed the door. Just a bit of the whole sentence. It wasn't the whole complete sentence, so it didn't have to be capitalized. Now, if you're splitting a quote in half, you should not capitalize the second part of the quote. And that example says, "The problem with opinions," Mr. Royens explained, "is that everyone has one." It's kind of funny. I thought it was funny. So, quotation mark, "the" is capitalized, problem with opinions, comma, quotation mark. Mr. Royens explained, comma, quotation mark, is not capitalized because you don't capitalize the second part of the quote. Now, we're using quotation marks, but one of the things that kind of goes hand in hand are some punctuation marks, and where do they go on it? Now, comma usage is our main focus for this lesson and for fourth grade. So you need to make sure you know where does a comma go when you're writing quotes down. And my question on this slide is, does punctuation go inside or outside quotation marks? And it really just depends on where in the sentence the person who is saying the quote is located. So by that I mean punctuation marks that introduce a quote are never placed within quotation marks. Look at this example sentence. Jeremy said, comma, quotation mark, "That was the best book I've ever read." Okay. That is the comma introduces the quote. Jeremy said, that is introducing the quote. However, if a quotation mark starts a sentence, the quote should end with a comma before the ending quotation marks. Who is saying what does not go in the quotes. Then look at this, okay? "I can't believe it snowed so much," Heather said. So we have quotation marks, all the writing, blah, 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 comma, quotation, and then the person who said it. Okay. Oops. So, to review this slide quickly, punctuation marks that introduce a quote are never placed within the quotation marks. So, It's starting off with the person who said it, comma, then quotation marks. Jeremy said, comma, quotation marks, that was the best book I've ever read. Then, if quotation marks start a sentence, the quote should end with a comma before the ending quotation marks. Who is saying what does not go in the quotes. So, comma, I can't believe it snowed so, or I'm sorry, quotation marks, I can't believe it snowed so much, comma, quotation marks. The comma is inside the quotation marks in that second sentence, guys. And we're going to do a little practice here. Okay, let's practice. Let me get out a black here so we can actually, let's turn it to red. And we're going to look at putting the quotation marks and the commas in these three sentences. Don't forget to go by the grocery store on your way home from work today, Sean said. Okay, first things first. Who said what? Sean said. What did Sean say? Sean said, don't forget to go by the grocery store on your way home from work today. Okay. Am I done there? Hopefully you're watching. You said, no, Mr. Royens, you got to put a comma after today. Quotation mark. Don't forget to go by the grocery store on your way home from work today, comma, quotation. Sean said. Remember this rule. If a quotation mark starts a sentence, the quote should end with a comma inside the quotation, the second quotation mark. The person is not in the quotations. April, the teacher asked, will you pass out the homework assignment? What is the, who is talking right now? This is kind of confusing because I left that out so that we could see me do it. Well, I could say April, the teacher asked. This person is not talking to you, though. Look, when I put the quotation marks, you're going to go, oh, I see. So we have April, quotation marks, the teacher asked, and it actually needs a comma right there. April, remember, it's starting it up. It's introducing it. So the quotation marks go inside, or the comma goes inside the quotation marks. April, the teacher asked, comma. Oh, sorry, put it a little ahead of myself. Asked, comma. And what did the teacher ask? That should be a capital W, actually. Will you pass out the homework assignment? Quotation marks. So the teacher is asking April to pass out the homework assignment. April, the teacher asked, will you pass out the homework assignment? Okay. So remember, comma inside the quotation marks because it's starting off the sentence. And then the last one here, Nancy, do we have homework tonight? Nancy asked, do we have homework tonight? Well, who's talking? Nancy. What did Nancy say? Well, Nancy asked, comma, do we have homework tonight? Period. But that D should be capitalized, right? Because do we have any homework tonight? It's the sentence of a quote, and that's always capitalized when you start it up, even if it's in the middle of the sentence, guys. All right. It's pretty straightforward stuff, guys. So I'm going to load this mini lesson up to this. It'll be loaded to the activity so you can watch it. I'll even export these slides as a PDF so that you can also peruse them at however you'd like. Maybe it'll help you. And then I've got an assignment I've uploaded where you're rewriting sentences, making sure to put quotation marks and commas in the proper spot for how people are quoting them.